Welcome, live stream viewers, to Light Your Way to Health and Wellness, here with Paula Shaw. I have to tell you that I really struggled with what to talk about today because it seemed like, health products or even some of the ways that I like and use to work with issues, to release tensions, to clear limiting beliefs. A lot of those things, while very important, and we will talk about them on another day. The world is in a situation right now that I think needs attention and discussion. We can't ignore what has been happening in our country and in the world in the last week or week and a half. We all know that the death of George Floyd led to riots and marches. Shockingly enough, to me, protests that were organized around protesting police brutality became stages for police to actually show police brutality. It was amazing. And while this is not a political show, I think this is a time in our nation's history where we all have to be looking at what's going on and talking about it. We can't just sidetrack and talk about, the latest fashion trend when people are marching, when people are dying in the streets, when certain races are targets of police brutality. And so I want to claim total guilt here as far as being one of the uninformed for so long. I want to claim my own personal guilt for thinking that as long as I loved people of all color, as long as I didn't see differences, that everything was okay. But everything is not okay in the system. And so, yes, I'm a total believer in what Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. And I think it's incumbent upon every one of us to look in our own hearts and scour every corner to make sure there aren't some little semblances of racism. Even if it's just in thinking, oh, yeah, certain races are better dancers or certain races are better at sports. That's still racism. We're still not looking at people as just humans. And one of the things I really believe is responsible for the marches that have happened all over the world, even though most of the problem right now is an American problem, and yet I really feel it's because we've all been united through living through this pandemic and all having this human experience that had nothing to do with race or country or color or anything. We were all fighting this virus together. And I think it's because of that, this unity that's developed with human hearts all over the world, that people in Paris, in Sydney, in London were marching, protesting what happened to George Floyd, although it didn't even happen in their country. I think because we're all united in this oneness right now, there's this, if it happens to you, it happens to me. It's like we're really getting it, that we're a hologram and we're feeling the impact of it. And in that way, I think it's a beautiful thing. And I also want to point out that most of the rallies in the US and around the world, or the protest marches, have been peaceful. And the only violence that's occurred is when the police decided to start pushing people around or shooting rubber bullets or doing things that did not have to be done. Yes, there was looting. Yes, there are riots. We have some angry, frustrated people who have been abused for years, and they've had it. They've broken loose. And, I just want to take a minute to remind everybody, people who are looking down now at anybody who's resorted to violence. And I have said this before, and I'll say it again. Of course, we want to find peaceful ways to solve our problems. But when people reach a certain level of frustration, they just move to anger. When people reach a level of combined frustration, anxiety, fear, it all erupts. And let us remember, before we start having too much of a superior attitude here, the Boston Tea Party was basically looting and rioting. But it was the beginning of our country. We were being mistreated, we were being abused, and we took action that led to the Revolutionary War, which created this country. So let's don't be too superior looking down on people who have reached a level of frustration and anger. Let's instead look for what's the problem here, what's the solution. We need to look at what is going on inside these humans who live in fear, who are feeling unfairly treated, who are oppressed, who fear the police, the people who are supposed to be keeping the peace. And I thought, since this is a health show, that it might be worth taking a little look today at what are some of the damaging effects of stress. Because there are actually studies being done on ethnicity and health in America, looking at the psychophysiological effects that stress, that racism have on the human body. And it's very interesting because it really affects the heart, affects the respiration, affects the immune system. And I wanted to just do something I haven't done here before. And I want to share with you, I'm going to share my screen and take a little look here with you at some of the effects of stress. 42% of Americans, that's almost half, report lying awake at night, unable to sleep because of stress. We all know how important sleep is. 60 to 80% of doctor visits are related to stress. And very, very few of those people are getting any kind of stress management help. In fact, for people of color, a lot of that stress-related illness might not even be being diagnosed. May not even realize how much of it is coming from living in this covert state of fear all the time. Here are some of the things that stress can do. Digestive upset and digestive problems is a huge one. Headaches. We've all experienced our stress headaches. This is a huge problem caused by stress. We just discussed sleeplessness, but I'm sure everybody listening to this has tossed and turned at some time or another because of stress. Depressed mood. Sometimes when the pressure is too much, the feeling of hopelessness and overwhelm sets in, and it can lead to depression. It's sort of a, oh my God, there's nothing I can do. Why bother? I'm done kind of a feeling. And that, again, relates to stress. Now, a lot of us have stress just once in a while. Sometimes it's a stressful week at work. But let's keep in mind, we're talking about people who always live with this level of pervasive underlying stress. Anger and irritability, yeah. Because if it doesn't impact you in the way that you just give up and you fall into depression, you're upset, you're pissed, you want things to be different, and that can lead to anger, understandable anger. Anxiety. Hell yeah, nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow these days, whether it's coronavirus or it's a March or whether it's another new problem. We had a huge tropical storm that I'm sure created some fear and anxiety. We've got, I mean, it's life, isn't it? I love that line that says, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And that is just so true. It's about learning to dance in the rain. But when it never stops raining, when the sun never shines in your world, then that takes it to a whole other level, which can become intolerable. Severe viral infections can result from stress. And we all remember what I've shared before. Bruce Lipton, cellular biologist and an expert in this area, says fear is so great at shutting down the immune system that when a transplant surgery, an organ transplant surgery is taking place, the patient is purposely given the same hormones and body chemicals that are produced by fear and stress to shut down the immune system so they won't reject the organ. That's how powerful fear and stress are in creating immune problems. Weight gain, and that can come from several reasons. Part of it can be from just feeling discouraged and falling into a state of inertia. Part of it can be from comfort eating, just to try to soothe oneself to get rid of that pervasive anxiety. Decreased sex drive, of course. Sex takes energy and it takes a higher vibration. It takes a feeling of aliveness and joy and happiness. And if that's not at play, I mean, if that's not a reality in your life, then of course there's no desire for sex. We talked about severe viral infections, but of course, immune disorders as well. A lot of immune disorders resulted from years and years of chronic stress. And again, we're looking at populations that experience that no matter what. Muscle tension, that's a given. We all know what it's like to have that tense neck and muscle tension in the shoulders. But heart disease, high blood pressure, and strokes can also result from stress, from this constant having to live with it. And this is one that really blew me away when I found this. Cancer has been directly linked to stress. So what do we need to learn from this? What do we need to, excuse me, I'm trying to stop my share and instead I'm sharing my whole screen here. Here we go. What do we need to learn? I think rather than standing in judgment right now of others, we need to look at what are the real problems that are causing this stress. And this isn't just in African Americans. This is in all people who are experiencing any kind of racism, any kind of prejudice, any kind of limitation. And along that line, I have to take a moment to say, please go on Netflix and search the documentary 13th. That's the number 13 with the TH after it, 13th. This documentary did more to open my eyes about the stress level that Black people in America have been living through since they were emancipated. the Emancipation Proclamation, that was the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. That's where the title comes from. And this documentary, 13th, really opened my eyes to why America has, I think America has, you know what, I won't try to give you the statistic, but I will have it next time, or I'll post it on here. But I want to just throw out, this is a sample statistic. It's like we have 5% of the minorities in the world, but we have 40% of the imprisoned population. And a lot of you know, now that's not the accurate statistic, so I want to say that, but we have this huge, out of proportion amount of people that are incarcerated in America. That's crazy. That's way ahead of the whole rest of the world. Oh, I know what it was. It's like we have 5% of the population in the world, but 40% of the incarcerated population. That's not the exact numbers, but it's darn close. Now, why is that? It's a very, very interesting reality. And it has to do with that 13th Amendment. And it has to do with the fact that 1 out of every 4 incarcerated people in the US, only 1 out of every 4 is white. And I volunteer at Donovan State Prison, so I can tell you firsthand that that is true. That most of the inmates are Black or Hispanic, most of them. There's got to be a reason for that, and it isn't that they're all criminals. So I just want to stress with all my heart to you today that don't just sit back and go, oh, rioting and looting, it's so horrible, this is so awful. Yeah. But let's put some effort into looking at the whys. For once, let's try to understand the root of this problem so we can fix it, so we can create significant change. In my lifetime, I've lived through the Watts riots, I've lived through Rodney King, I've lived through many things, civil rights, women's rights. I mean, it seems unconscionable at this point in time that women had to actually fight for equal rights, but we did. I've lived through all of that. And I really, before I leave this planet, would like to see significant change. I would like to see all of this result in change that creates fair opportunity for everybody, no matter the race, the religion, or the sex. We all deserve an equal chance. And I think I'm going to just end this right here, right now. But let's all do our best today within ourselves to relieve our stress, to shift our minds to the beautiful future that's possible if we pay attention, we get educated, and we do the work now, and we create the change now. All right. I'll see you tomorrow at 11:30 for highlights from the Silver Linings Playbook. And oh, I hope I can find something wonderful to share with you. That people are waking up, that people are paying attention. All right. Take care and have a beautiful day. And do what you can to breathe or move or think or feel or laugh or love or sing your stress away. All right. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.